realfaith.org.au.
God just said to me, Wendy, that's where I want you. And I just had absolutely no doubt. Now, my boyfriend at the time, shared this with him, and he said, well, he didn't really feel a call to the mission field, to Ecuador. And so, I had to come to that decision. Do I go with where God is leading me, or do I choose to get married and have children and stay in Australia?
Welcome to Real Faith. Conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life, and real faith with Eric Scatterbo.
Well, today we have part 2 of our conversation with retired missionary Wendy Freeman. She's the author of the book Beauty for Ashes, A Journey of Faith and Healing. Last time, Wendy shared about her troubled childhood and how she was rejected by her mother and abandoned by her father. However, she also shared how her Heavenly Father completely transformed her life. Today, we'll pick up the story as Wendy has trained to be a nurse and is in Bible school. Her boyfriend at the time was a representative of a ministry called HCJB World Radio, which is now known as Reach Beyond. He gave her a pamphlet about the ministry, and she found out that in addition to being an international shortwave radio ministry based in Ecuador, they also had 2 hospitals. After praying about it, Wendy felt the Lord had called her to be a nurse in South America. Now here's more of my conversation with Wendy Freeman, who joins us once again from her home in Victor Harbor.
Now, my boyfriend at the time, shared this with him, and he said, well, he didn't really feel a call to the mission field, to Ecuador. He wanted to just represent the mission here in Australia. And so, I had to come to that decision. Do I go with where God is leading me, or do I choose to get married and have children and stay in Australia?
Oh, wow, that's quite a decision. So you stay in Australia, you're married, and your life is very much different.
Exactly.
But you decided to follow the Lord to South America.
Yeah.
Well, that was a
Mind
sacrifice.
you, I didn't know where Ecuador was when God told me. I had to get a map out. I knew it was in South America, but I didn't know where.
Yeah.
So I got a bit of flack for that decision, but and strangely,
well, what were people saying? What in the world are you thinking? You're giving up your husband, your potential husband.
And why are you giving up a good career in nursing to go over there?
Yeah.
I mean, some of these are Christians, right?
Yeah.
And even my own church, they thought I had my wires crossed because I didn't go to Baptist mission. God, I must have had my wires crossed because, I was going over to Ecuador with HCJB.
Yeah.
But God had called me in such a clear way. I had absolutely no doubt that's what God wanted me to do.
Let me just interrupt to give a little background that HCJB were the call letters for the radio station that was started in Ecuador by an American named Clarence Jones. Do I have that right?
That's right.
In 1930. So it was the first radio station in Ecuador, I believe. And so the call letters were HCJB. So that's where the name of the ministry got its name from being the radio station. It's since changed its name to Reach Beyond. And I'm sitting in the Reach Beyond studios at the moment here in the east side of Melbourne. And I should say, on a personal note, my wife Jean and I were also missionaries to Quito, Ecuador with HCJB World Radio. But our time in Ecuador was much later after you had left, so our time did not overlap. But I do know about the places that you'll be mentioning in Ecuador while you're there because, so I also struggled to try to learn Spanish, was not very good at it. How did you do learning Spanish?
Well, surprisingly, a lot better than I expected because I hadn't had the opportunity to do any languages at school.
Mm-hmm. Some people either have it or they don't, and I was functional but not very good. I wasn't conversational.
Well, I think it really helped me being a single person and living with a Costa Rican family with 6 or 7 kids.
So how long were you in Costa Rica?
I think it was 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
And
so immersed in the Spanish-speaking culture there.
Exactly. Well, they spoke no English and I spoke no Spanish.
So it was sink or swim.
It was sink or swim. And, my trusty little Spanish dictionary and sign language was what got me through. And, I had 6 kids in the family and mum and dad, so that's 8 teachers helping me. And, going to language school, I had classes in the afternoon. So I studied in the morning and in the afternoon I had classes. And in class, we weren't allowed to speak any English at all.
Oh, wow.
And it was a bit like being a baby learning how to talk. A little child learning how to talk. And I think I was able to get to the point of being able to make myself understood, conversationally, but we didn't get taught any medical terms. And when I arrived in Ecuador, I had to learn pretty quickly because someone was trying to tell me they wanted to go to the toilet or they wanted to throw up. And, I had to learn pretty fast the terms for things like that, as well as, what you call a drip and what you call, tablets and all of these kinds of things. And I had to write my reports when I was working in the Quito Hospital and the Shell Hospital in Spanish.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
so,
you were far more advanced than I ever got.
And, somebody has said to me, if you speak a language for 10 years, you never forget it. And I think that is true because I have got a few Spanish-speaking friends that I may not see very often, but the minute they call me or I meet with them, it's there. And it's just, the switch.
I can't remember anything.
Really?
Buenos dias, that's about it.
Yeah, well.
¿Cómo estás? That's about it.
That's pretty good. And I'm just very grateful, to have that because I can still communicate with my friends. I can still email in Spanish to the director of nursing, who still lives in Shell and things like that, that I'm still in touch with over there.
Yeah, we had an Ecuadorian maid. And to this day, she posts things on Facebook to us. And I always have to click on translate.
Yes. Oh, that's lovely.
Just to kind of have an idea of what she's saying.
Yes, exactly.
So anyhow, let's get back to your story. How did it go being a missionary nurse in Ecuador?
Well, the first 3 months were fantastic, and then there was the honeymoon. Honeymoon was over.
Oh, what happened?
It was a little bit difficult because I expected to have culture shock with the Ecuadorians, but not so much with Americans.
Oh, here we go.
Because we speak the same language or whatever,
Yeah.
And because I did my nurse's training when I did, there was no university degrees. So we trained on the job. And we would have a block of classes and then we'd go into the wards and we'd put into practice what we learned. And I kept getting asked, and what degree do you have? But the problem I had with some of the Ecuadorian nurses was in Australia, nurses aren't allowed to put in drips. They may be able to now, but back then it was the doctor's role. But in Ecuador, the nurses put in the drip. So I actually had to learn how to put in a drip. I became very good at it because I'm quite a practical person, and I find the practical aspect of nursing very, very easy. But it was a hard adjustment at first.
Okay.
But I loved my work. It was very hard work, and we had a lot of overtime. We were working very long hours and things like that.
So this is late 70s when you arrived in Ecuador?
Yes, correct. And the other thing that I found difficult was that I was a trained midwife, but I wasn't allowed, I wasn't allowed to deliver any babies because the American model was that the doctors delivered the babies. So, there was either Latin American obstetricians or some of the missionary doctors. It was very much a male-dominated world. And it took till I got to Shell to be allowed to have much to do with delivering babies.
We should say that Shell is the second hospital that the Ministry of HCJB had in Ecuador.
Yes, that's right. And I went there in 1981. But, I was struggling a bit in Ecuador because a few things happened. One of the Ecuadorian doctors tried to have an affair with me.
Oh.
Got me stuck in the corner somewhere, and I told him, invited me to a hotel. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on air.
But this is reality.
Yeah.
This is the kind of things that can happen if you need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
So not all the doctors there were Christians.
Exactly. And that was part of the problem, I think, with some of the staff as well. The staff and the doctors, they weren't Christians. So they really didn't have the same calling as us, and they worked very hard, but they didn't have the same calling.
It was an occupation for them, whereas it was a calling.
Ours was a calling. That's
and
right.
a ministry for the missionaries.
That's exactly right, yes.
But how was your faith challenged while you were there?
Well, I felt like God, God was the only one I had, kind of thing. I had there was a lot of single women, and we had a lot of, time together, and we did stuff together, and I went to a singles Bible study, and that was great. But I think because of my perfectionistic behavior and expectations of myself, even though our workload was so heavy, and people were really sick. Sicker than what I've ever nursed in Australia, because often they would come when it's too late, and I found one day I just felt so overloaded. I just felt like I just couldn't keep going. It was on an evening shift, and I called the director of nursing, and I said, look, because I had a high capacity to cope prior to this, throughout my life, because of what I'd had to deal with as a child. But I just called her and I said, look, we're just so busy. We really need some help. And she said, well, there is none, and hung up on me.
Oh.
So I found that really hard, because if I had been in her shoes, I would have come over and maybe put in a couple of drips for the person. But anyway, it didn't happen. But as time went on, I got to the point where I basically just couldn't cope anymore. So I did call the director of nursing, and I told her, and she referred me to May Yeoman, who was a counsellor and a missionary. And, I kind of told her a bit of my story, and she said, oh, my goodness, you poor little lamb. And she said, I just don't understand how come you're not mad at God. And I said, well, why should I be mad at God? God didn't mess up. It's only my parents who messed up. And I just felt like it just, had got to crisis point. It just all got too hard, and I just couldn't cope with life anymore. And to be honest with you, about getting my faith tested, I was considering an exit plan.
Oh, out of being a missionary?
Out of life.
Oh, complete exit plan.
Yeah, exactly.
You're suicidal, you're saying?
Yeah. But, God rescued me, and I was able to gradually, with help from May, get to the point where, I was able to continue on. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy my missionary life or work, Eric, because, it was such a joy to finally arrive in Ecuador and be in the place God had been planning for me to be for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I loved my work.
Mm-hmm.
There was just too much of it.
Our guest today is once again retired missionary Wendy Freeman. She's sharing her life journey and some of the challenges she's faced being a missionary nurse in South America. We'll hear more of her story when we return right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional, designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus. Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition at thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scadabo, and today, once again, I'm chatting with retired missionary Wendy Freeman, who's sharing her life journey with us. Before the break, we heard about some of the challenges she faced being a missionary nurse in South America and how the stress of the role was having a negative impact on her. Now we'll hear what happened next in her life.
And at that point, I hadn't learned that the need is not the call.
Oh, what does that mean?
That, there's all this need, so you can't be the one to fix everything.
Oh, okay.
The call to fix. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see all this.
You have to be able to put up boundaries. You still have to be healthy yourself before you can serve
That's exactly
anyone.
right. And that's something I wasn't good at because I didn't know how, because of, I guess, being the oldest in the family, I looked after everybody. So just looking after everybody else but me.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wasn't looked after, I didn't know how to look after me.
So that's an important lesson to learn. Anybody in ministry.
Exactly.
You felt like, well, I have to do this. God wants me to do this work. It's good work, and there's a big need. So it's hard to say, no, sorry, I need some time to rest. I mean, the truth is that we all need to get rest and rejuvenated from time to time. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we can get burnt out.
And even, in the paperwork that I received before I went to the mission field, it said that, your ministry takes priority over everything else. So, and it was a bit like that when I was nursing, my duty as a nurse, you had to be dead before you could have time off. You know what I mean?
So that does not sound compatible with take time for yourself and have some rest time.
That's exactly right. And this is what I have learned over the, through this whole experience, that there has to be a balance.
Right. A healthy work-life balance.
That's exactly right, because I can't be an effective missionary if I don't have time, to rest and relax. And I think one of the things that I found really, really hard was our rosters. And often we were rostered on, I had been rostered on at times 9 days in a row.
Oh, my goodness.
And all 3 shifts. And so there was this, this tension between, the other missionaries, working 9 to 5 in the studio, say, and the nurses working, 9 days in a row and all 3 shifts.
So us radio guys who are just working in a studio, 9 to 5.
Nothing compared. No, I don't mean, I don't have it against you guys, but I just feel like with the mission, with all missions, I think, and especially in an American mission, because Americans often are workaholics, and I was a workaholic, and that's not a good combo.
Yeah. So it just kind of exacerbated the problem.
Exactly. And I know I need to take responsibility for maybe not having spoken up. Not that I may not have got a hearing to say, that, hey, this is too much. But I wasn't the only nurse who burnt out.
Yeah. Speaking of burning out, that's what happened to you. And
I got burnt out.
You were diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome?
That's correct. Now, to just backtrack a little bit, in 1981, this position came up in Shell, and I was asked if I would like to go, and I went. And I was so much happier in Shell because it was just such a different environment.
So you were in the big city hospital right next to the compound where all the radio was being done.
Across the road, yes.
There.
And then I went to a Shell, which is
a little
5 hours.
Town. How far away?
A little town. It's 5 hours
Okay,
from
I never
Quito.
made it down there, but yeah, so in the jungle.
And it's on the edge of the jungle,
Okay,
the eastern jungle of Ecuador. So I absolutely loved it down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, well, we were working long shifts then too. I think not so much long shifts, but long stretches.
Mm-hmm.
And just being who I am, and, you know, we were on call and things like that. And because I didn't talk a lot about my background, people didn't really know my background much. And my friends were on opposite shifts to me, so you don't get time to debrief and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So after my first term, I felt like I'd adjusted to Ecuador, the culture, loved the place, loved the food, loved the people. And then my second furlough, I came back, and it was so much easier. And my second term, it was so much easier because I had adjusted.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have to go through that process again.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in Shell, my gifts, other than nursing, were being used as well.
Oh, okay. So that had to be fulfilling.
It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to help women in labour and teach prenatal classes and so on. That was really special. And helped deliver a few babies. And then we were going to build a new hospital. So I was helping with all of the sewing side, making screens for between the beds and sheets and curtains and everything, you know, and it was pretty special.
So we should say that obviously there were challenges that you're sharing about, but in and amongst that was also some very fulfilling time doing what God called you to do.
Exactly. Yes. You know, in no way do I want to convey that it was all really, really difficult. There were just times when it was hard. But I think that's to be expected, especially when you're in a third world country, you know.
I just remember the crime.
Yeah. Well,
a lot more crime than I was used to.
Well, the thing was, when I was there, it wasn't so bad.
Oh, is that right?
It was a lot safer, and I had no problems traveling on my own.
Oh, okay. That's good. How far away from the hospital did you live?
I lived halfway up Pichincha.
Oh, we were at the top of that road.
Oh, you're at the top? Okay, yeah. Well, I was fair way up there. Steep hill, got plenty of exercise.
Yeah, and that's the highest altitude of any capital in the world, I believe.
That's right.
So you just walked a block or two. You were feeling very tired.
Yeah. Well, it took me a little while to acclimatise to the altitude.
Yeah.
It takes about 3 months for you to acclimatise in that your blood cells increase to carry more oxygen. Mm-hmm. And that takes about 3 months. And I was actually jogging up there.
Oh, wow. No, I just took a taxi home myself.
And walking up that hill, I got plenty of exercise too.
Taxis were cheap. I just took a taxi home.
Well, that was part 2 of my conversation with retired missionary Wendy Freeman. She's the author of the book Beauty for Ashes, A Journey of Faith and Healing. As we're hearing, Wendy faced some significant challenges on the mission field in South America and learned some valuable lessons along the way, especially about the need to have a proper work-life balance and about getting a healthy amount of rest so she can be refreshed and rejuvenated. In ministry and in all of life, we cannot give to others if we are running on empty ourselves. So it's important that we take time to fill up our tanks as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of Wendy's story, and we invite you to join us again next time for part 3. Until then, I'm Eric Scatabo. So long, and God bless.
You've You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.